this video we'll be decking a small block Chevrolet with the BHJ True Deck plate system on the Storm Vulcan. We're going to go through the procedure of how I do it, and that's what this video will be. I'll probably be boring this block. I don't know if I'll make a video of that. This block has a little bit of wear underneath where the ring stopped, and I'm going to show you how I bore them when they're like that, because he has a piston out of his other race engine. He's trying to use it in this one, and it's a 30 over. I don't believe there'll be a problem, but if you do look at the cylinder walls, you can see there's a fair amount of rust on them. That's not going to give you a very accurate measurement until we clean that off. So it's probably getting close to the point where if you set it up at the top of the bore, it may not clean up. It might show a shadow line. So I'll show you how we take care of that. And I've decked a few blocks before. Unfortunately, things are hard to get nowadays. I have the hot tank is down. I have like 3 jobs that I need to get in the hot tank. I want to finish up on the small block Chevrolet heads. The FRs, I have a little bit of welding to do on them. Can't get any gas for the welder, the kind of gas that I use. It just seems like it's an on and on thing in this business, and it doesn't seem to get any better. But I finally got my wrist pins that I've been waiting 2 months for. So we can start on fairly soon the 632, I'm hoping. And on the 565, that had to get shuffled because I have so many little things going on, and every week I try to manage the shop where at least one job gets done or gets closer. So jumping around is a challenge. You got to get creative at times, and I guess I'll get off my soapbox and won't talk any more about that. So I'm sure you didn't tune in for that, but it's just I just had to get that out of the way. So we're going to get going on this job. Thank you. So I've chamfered all the bolt holes, water steam holes, clean them back. Of course, taking the dowel pins out. You always want to make sure that you take the dowel pins out. You don't want to hit it. I've never been in that big of a hurry to hit one of these, but it would raise holy hell with the cutters. Another thing about the cutters too is this is a pretty rusty block around the water passages and that. If you cut these, it's not uncommon that you might clean up the rust. You'll see the iron will look wet. It'll be shinier. I guess that might be a better explanation. It's kind of hard on these cutters because when it rusts, it changes the iron a little bit. So I like to go over the top of the deck with a putty knife. Actually, a wood chisel works really well. Of course, you got to be careful you don't gouge it. Or just a long block. I have one right here, 80 grit, and I'll go over it. And it'll give me an idea how bad the deck is from GM, and usually they're horrible. And then I'll take a file and I'll break the edges. And I'll do that at the beginning or in the middle. I'll make 3 cuts on this. The first cut is going to be a clean cut. And the wheel is trued into the plate, but we want to make sure that the deck is true to the plate. And then I'll move it with a dial indicator. And of course, if you verify it and you check it and say your 2000s here at this end, you don't want to adjust. If you put the dial indicator here, you don't want to adjust it for 2000s. So if it reads 2 up here, this is where you should do your adjusting with your dial indicator, and I usually set it on the wheel. And that is because the further out you go, the more it's going to change the measurement. So we'll file this a little bit, or I should say sand it. And for a running engine, he told me this thing was running good when he pulled it apart. There's some terrible rust on the deck. So we got a fair amount of it off, and I can live with the little bit that's on there. I'll probably scrape it off a little bit with a scraper. When I fire this up, this pad is rusty, and the cutters don't like it, and you can hear the sound just by change of going from the iron that's not rusty to the iron that is rusty. So I'm going to hit it lightly with a file, half round file inside the lifter valley. And midway through I'll look at it, and if I don't feel it's broke good enough, I'll hit it again with the file. You just want to take the sharp edges off of everything. It's not mandatory. It just looks like somebody did the job that actually cared what he was doing. Of course, you don't want to hit these with your knuckles, so, you know, realistically, you should move the wheel back. Obviously, you don't want it running either when you do that. So that's pretty good. I'm gonna get I use a wood chisel. Like I said, you gotta be careful, real careful with aluminum. Wood chisel. Get some of the gasket material up off the deck. I'll make a light cut, and then I'll get back and I'll show you a picture, or I'll get back and I'll show you what it looks like, not a picture. Still early, but what it looks like with a light cut. This is a very slow machine, so you'd fall asleep by the time we got across the deck, so I'll get back to you on that. Yeah, it looks like she's finished up with the first cut. Shut the machine off, we'll back the wheel off and take a peek and see how evenly it cut the deck. And if it's even or fairly close, and it cut most all the deck surface, we'll put my plate on it. We'll check to make sure that the deck is cutting. Well, it isn't. It's cutting here, it's cutting here, and it's missing all of this. So I'm going to set the cutter down. I know exactly what I took off the other side. I zeroed everything to the other side. So I'm going to take another 2/1000 off this deck. We'll get back and we'll look at it because it's not cutting clean. It's got some twist in it. That is not uncommon. And then we'll measure it and make sure that it is cutting true so we can do all of our adjustment if need be. But this is not uncommon. You can see how much rust around the water passages, how it's creeped out even further. Not completely unusual, but usually they're not that bad. They are really etched in. And you can see where I hit the wire wheel where it's pitted quite heavily. So we're going to set her down, take a few more thou off and get back and see if we can get her cleaned up enough to get a measurement off it and see how square she is, and then I'll take my final cut. Okay, we got a finished clean cut on it. She sure is rough, but it'll seal where it needs to seal. And we're going to start out with I've got a 12 and a 13, so go, no go, and see how far we're off. We've got plenty of room, so we'll go up to a 14, and that's good for me because that tells me that I'll have 4 thousandths to clean off the deck, which we can use every single bit of that. So this is going to slide through, so that's good. Maybe when it's all said and done, we'll be at 16, and then that'll give us enough to straighten out the deck a little bit if it's off just a little, and it'll give us more meat to clean up. We sure could use it. This block is horrible. 15, 5 thousandths. We'll see how square she is. I don't think we're going to move it at all, to be honest with you. We're tight there. We're tight 16. I'm not moving it at all. I'm not going to move it at all. We're going to leave it just where it is. That deck is probably within less than 1/1000th of an inch where I measured it. That's plenty close enough for this. It's closer than GM, I can tell you that. If you don't like the way I'm doing this, tough. Because these are precision ground Joe blocks. That's what they used to call them, but they're precision block. And the feeler gauge, that's just as accurate as anything is all day long. So, and this was a ground piece of material that I had ground at a machine shop in town, and these things are fairly flat, and I lap them every once in a while with a stone. So we're plenty close enough for a circle burner. So I'm gonna probably take off 3 thousandths. I'll measure it one more time, and then I'll take another 3 off. I'll spare you me setting it up, but we're going to take 3 off of it right now. I've got the dial indicator on the wheel. That's adjustable. I have a gauge here that I've set the gauge to 0. So I know I'm going to take 6 thousandths off, but I'm going to set the wheel for 3. I'm going to check it again, and then I'll take one more pass. It's a lot of screwing around, but you know, that's the only way I know how to do it, and I like doing it this way. So if you've got a way that you do it and you want to tell me, that's fine, but I've cut a lot of blocks, and I'm kind of used to this. I use this or an inside mic, but actually, to be truthful with you, I think this is more accurate. Okay, we'll get going. So it ain't gonna hurt us to take 6 thousandths off this poor bastard. Well, this side's all done. We're gonna roll her over and do the other side. You can see the discoloration from the rust. It makes the iron, I believe, a little harder. But it ain't no big deal. It's a hell of a lot better than it was, and it'll seal up. The gasket will seal fine. I don't want to take any more off of the deck. We don't have to. We're not going to. Just did a light cut. See where it's at. It's cleaning up all the way here. It's got a little low spot there. You've seen me indicate the wheel in before to the BHJ 2 deck plate. I have a ground and just lapped it lightly. Flat piece of plate. I'm going to lay it across here, and I've got an inside mic, and I'll measure it here and here, and I'll adjust it if it's the face of this isn't cutting true to the deck plate. So I'm going to lightly touch these holes up. I'm probably going to hit the edges with file. There is a lot of scale on this block. Yeah, I might go around these water ports, steam ports. A couple of them that look like they're almost plugged, so these ones here, I'm going to hit them. Okay. We're going to bore it, so I'll chamfer the cylinder holes after I bore it. Measure it for size. We'll check that right now, figure out where the deck is. These are about 9-inch 20 thousandths. I'll probably shoot for 9 10 thousandths. So he's got a little bit of material. He told me he didn't want it zero deck, so we won't do that. No high spots under it. Feels pretty good. Drag's equal. It's relatively flat. Okay, I'm always doing things differently and coming up with different ways and seeing if they work better or not as good. But I usually check things a couple different ways. What I got is a couple precision blocks, and that puts the deck at exactly 9. I have a feeler gauge under here, which is 19, and it's not picking up on it, but it's not slipping through easily. So you can see it just catches just a little bit. So we'll move it over here. And pretty much the same thing. If anything, we could probably bump it about 1/1000th. So what I'll do is I'll put a dial indicator here, and I'll move the jacks up 1/1000th of an inch. And I think we'll have it pretty damn close. I think I'll just move it maybe 1/2 thousandths. just under 1,000. So it only took a second to do it, so I did it. It's going to be plenty close enough for what this is going to end up going into. But you know, if we can make them better, we always try to make them as close to perfect as we can. So getting back to it, and I don't know if I said it or not, but I also use a planer gauge sometimes. If you've ever seen one of them, you can adjust it up and down. And you know, you can put these pedestals, towers, whatever you want to call them, in different positions and stack them. So if you need a height, you just move it back and forth. And this is kind of a feel deal, and I like this way. It works pretty good. And I got an inside mic, but I decided to use these. So I'm going to cut 9 off of it, and this side will be done. Okay, we got this side cut. We're all set to go. We'll be boring this block and honing it. I might make a little video on boring it. You've seen me bore and hone a bunch of engines, but if you want to see more boring and honing, let me know. Well, thank you for watching this. We'll be getting back on the 565 shortly here. I've got a bunch of equipment I'm moving around in the shop, and I got to get a couple things situated, and we'll be back on the 565. Still waiting for a camshaft on the 350. Probably be getting to that quite soon. Hopefully the guy with the camshaft comes through. Well, thank you for watching. Please subscribe. It doesn't cost nothing. I see a lot of guys looking at my videos. You know, I'm doing the best I can. It's probably not a very entertaining thing, but you know, it looks like quite a few people have actually stopped and looked at a video. If you get anything out of my videos, even if you're watching them for 10 minutes or 10 seconds, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything. Thank you.